here's everything that you need to know about proxies within Shade. In this video, I'm gonna break down how to create proxies within Shade, but I'm also gonna break down how to create and work with proxies within your respective NLE of choice. For this specific example, I'm just going to be talking about Premiere Pro and DaVinci Resolve. But if you find yourself editing in Final Cut Pro, there's nothing wrong with that. These are just the two NLEs we see the most people using, and that's why I'm focusing on them for this example. But first, I want to talk about why you would need to use proxies anyways, just at all. For starters, proxies can be used with any sort of workflow independent of Shade, because a lot of times we're using or editing files that are too large to be able to be edited smoothly with our computer. And that can apply whether you're working on a super fast SSD or you're working off of your computer's cache on a mounted cloud drive. It doesn't matter which scenario, you can always run into these limitations with these larger files. So proxies apply regardless of Shade, but within Shade, you can run into some of the same issues. You know, if we're talking about a giant 6K OpenGate file that is super high data rate, you might need to create a proxy for that file and then edit off of that proxy primarily. So within Shade, as your footage is already uploaded in Shade, you can simply come into a file or folder, right click it, and then you can download proxies. Now, for those proxies to still exist in your mounted drive, you would simply create download to custom, and then you would select your mounted drive of choice. You could even select a folder of where to put those files in. So if I want to put it back in this proxy testing folder, then I could do that. I simply hit select, and then those files are being converted into proxies and downloaded, and then they're landing in my mounted drive. Now, because of the way the mounted drive works, it is cloud-based. So as soon as they're downloaded, they're automatically re-uploaded to the mounted drive. It's a bit confusing, but what I really want to touch on is that you are basically putting those proxies onto your mounted drive, which then will be mirrored across anyone else who's actively using that mounted drive. So that's helpful if you don't have an NLE that can create those proxies. But let's say that you do, because most NLEs do. Then what you can do is you can come into your NLE of choice. We'll start with Premiere. Right in Premiere, I've got the same 3 files here, and I'm just going to highlight all of them, right click, and then go to this proxy option here. Now, what I could do if I already have proxies is I could simply click attach proxies, navigate to the folder where my proxies are living, and now I'll have proxies for the full version of these files. But for this instance, we're going to need to create proxies. From there, we can choose the quality of our proxies, whether it's the full frame size, half the resolution, a quarter of the resolution, or custom. I'm going to go with half for this. Then we can choose the preset. And for this, I'm just going to do H.264. ProRes will be a slightly larger file, so H.264 will be smaller. And then we can choose to do a watermark with the proxy icon or not. I'm going to select yes, just so I never forget that I'm working on the proxies. And then this is the key, because this is where the location is where you're going to actually allow these proxies to be stored on your mounted drive. So for me, I'm going to hit choose location. Then I'll go in and navigate to my mounted drive. I can simply select that B-roll library folder, and then I can scroll down and select the folder where I want the proxies to live. So automatically those proxies are going to be created, and then they're going to live right next to my main files within my mounted drive. It's honestly a super seamless process. It's going to want to open Media Encoder to do so. It will quickly create those proxies, and then you'll be able to edit with them. So now when you drag your files into your timeline, you'll be able to toggle proxies. And when you toggle proxies on, you'll see this little icon here, which is basically going to tell you that this is the proxy. And before I export, I can simply toggle proxies off, and then I'll be back to the original file. So that is how you can handle proxies within Premiere. Within DaVinci Resolve, proxy creation is honestly pretty similar and pretty easy. But first, within DaVinci, we're going to start in our master settings here. We're going to scroll down to optimize media and render cache, and I want you to pay attention to this piece here, because this is where we're going to get to choose kind of the default settings, similar to how we did it in Premiere. But here we'll just select it and it'll kind of be the default solution. So we'll select our quality of proxy media, the resolution. Again, we're going with half. So, and a quick difference here is that you have optimized media and proxy media. For this, we're just focusing on proxy media within DaVinci. And then we're going to have locations. So here you can see the proxy media generation location. It's basically right now going to put all the proxies that you ever create within one single folder. But we don't necessarily want to do that. But we're not going to change that here. What we're going to do is we're going to hit save, and we're going to go up to this menu and hit preferences. Now, when we go into preferences, we can see proxy generation location. And the reason I said to skip it on the previous menu is because there's a particular option here that I really like, which is proxy subfolders in media file locations. And what that's going to basically do is it's going to automatically put the proxies right next to the raw files, wherever the raw files are stored. In this case, for you working with Shade, your raw files would be stored in your mounted drive. But obviously, if you're working off of any other drive, it would put them right next to the raw files. You can also have it ask when you're creating, but because DaVinci is just going to do this automatically for you, I like to just select that and hit save. Now, it's kind of the same process as Premiere. You select the files you want to create proxies for, right-click them, go to Proxy Media, hit Generate Proxy Media. Now it's going to generate those proxies, and you'll notice it didn't ask me anything about where I want those proxies to live or the quality of the proxies that I want. This is one of the benefits of DaVinci Resolve, and I'm not going to get into Premiere versus DaVinci in this video, but it is beneficial because these proxies are automatically going to get created. You're going to have preset settings for those proxies, and then it automatically knows to just put those proxies next to the raw files neatly in their own folder, regardless of where those raw files are. So the variation in time of how long it takes the proxies to get generated will depend on the size of the files, but obviously once those proxies are generated, then you're going to be able to edit with them. We can bring our clips into a timeline. From there, we'll go up to the playback menu and we'll go to proxy handling. Then we can simply select prefer proxies. And now we're looking at all of our proxies. And it's honestly super easy. You're going to get smooth playback. Originally, some of these files were 10, 15 gigs, but they're playing back just fine because they're proxies. And then when you go into export in DaVinci, it's going to auto export the originals using the originals, but you can always, if you're just worried about it, you can always toggle back to prefer camera originals. And then you'll be back to the originals and you're good to export. And lastly, within DaVinci, if you happen to already have proxies made, like if you use the first method I talked about in this video, then you can simply select those clips, come down to Proxy Media and hit Relink Proxy Media, which would basically allow you to link your original files to already existing proxy media. But that should be everything you need to know about how to use proxies within a Shade workflow. Whether you're generating the proxies within Shade, generating the proxies within your NLE, or just using already existing proxies and linking them up in your NLE. Let me know in the comments if you're using proxy workflows in your editing process. And as always, thanks for watching and thanks for using Shade.